on this show.
Okay.
What do you mean
I don't
it's
know if that was
completely blank?
it says body. It says so. It has our
shit,
intro.
I didn't send you the
title body.
updated.
I can just jump over to the script to the. Let's do it. There's no callbacks now, Tangeman. We're working with the blank script. Let's go.
All right, we'll figure it out.
We'll just wing it.
Still won't be the worst show we've ever done. From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. For all of you interested in owning a little piece of history, and by history I mean Jim's artistic representation of the United States of America.
Jim's geography.
Head on over to the Pod Therapy Bait Shop and pick yourself up a canvas print. And if you're looking at that and you're thinking, I like this, but I need something a little bit bigger, check out the area rug.
Oh,
please.
God.
And now, broadcasting from the
inspired.
churn, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangement. Dr. Jim Jobin.
Are you good at your job? I'm
It's time for
twice
some
as
Pod Therapy.
Go down to patreon.com/therapy to get a clue what we're talking about. And Nick, while I stall, you should send me a script because the whiteboard does not have the questions in it either.
What?
I got nothing, dude. You deleted the questions to put them in the script.
But then I must not have saved
I
it.
hope
All
you
right,
have
all
them in a
right,
doc.
Stall. Play me off. Play me off.
Dun, 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 dun. Jump over to patreon.com/THEREPY.
Hold on.
I'm buying you time, dude.
I haven't got my email up yet. Keep going.
Patreon.com/therapy.
Therapy.
Patreon.com/therapy
Come on
for as little as $1 a month.
That's right.
You can get therapized.
That's right. And you can go to podtherapybaitshop.com and check out the new merch, which apparently is an exact rendition of the hand-drawn map that I created for the last episode's Patreon, where I attempted to name all 50 states.
That's true. We should say that for the last episode's Patreon,
Yeah.
after the show, the post-show
Hand-drawn.
Patreon, we had Jim draw a map of the continental United States
And name every single
and
one
tried
of
to
them.
label them.
And
I believe he got
dominated.
I think it was
Broke all the projections.
I think it was more than half.
What
wasn't
happens
it?
when
was
you
23.
double the over?
It was not over
23.
half.
When you
Okay.
double the over, that's called
Hold on.
winning.
See, this is the thing. This is the thing.
Dominating.
I started feeling a little bit bad because
Like a helicopter dunk on your ass.
Jim got a lot of hate on Twitter.
I
and
did.
Our Patreon, we're getting emails
Good.
saying like, I can't believe he's this dumb.
Good.
Like I was starting to feel bad. Like I should jump in and
I
defend
was
this.
not.
the guy.
But it's the arrogance
this.
behind it that that's just like it's one thing to get 23 out of 50
Hall
states.
of Fame.
But then to have
Prideful ignorance.
yes.
No, it's called
like, I can't-
beating the odds. I am the Rudy
No.
of
Do
American
you
geography.
understand- Do you understand what that means?
Nobody believed
No,
in me.
do you understand what that means?
Nobody. I'm
That
pointing
means-
at you. I'm pointing at you.
Jim.
Nobody in this room believed in Rudy, and I broke through
No,
the
no, no.
line.
We were right.
This
I
means
did 23
this
states.
only means you weren't as stupid as we thought you were.
Apology
That's it.
accepted. I'll take it. That's a birthday card you just wrote me. That's a sonnet, Nick. That's what that is. That's a power ballad. That's the lyrics of a chorus right there. That's poetry, baby. Roses are red, violets are blue. You are much smarter than I thought you were, Jim.
No, I didn't say smarter.
You're not as
I said
stupid as
you're
I
not
thought.
as stupid.
There you go.
Tomato, Nick. Tomato. You thought I was gonna get 9. He thought I was gonna get 13. I got 23. 23.
He did.
Dunked in your mouths. That's
Jim
what happened.
did overachieve
Significantly.
for Jim.
For Jim.
Yeah.
Beat the spread. Love it. So I got 23, and then your girlfriend Laura did it live on Instagram, which I have thoughts about. Okay, there were more than a few people. Some people are saying
Right.
that there needs to be a recount. Some people are saying there was some perhaps some shenanigans going on.
Like
Many have
what?
said. I'm not saying it. Others
Right.
have said it. But since you asked, they're saying that the whole thing was a sham.
I believe
And that you
if
were
go
giving her
back-
answers.
I believe if you go back and listen to the Patreon,
Yeah.
I believe I was willing to bet absolutely anything.
Yes. Yeah.
Literally anything.
Yes.
That Laura would be better than Jim.
Yeah,
Yes.
on that, it turns out you were right. If there were no shenanigans, which I'm not saying there were, but many are saying there are. So I don't know.
think that
We have independent commissions for this kind of thing.
There's a reason that I believe that there were no shenanigans.
Okay.
And that is because I believe that none were needed.
Yeah.
There were a few shenanigans. Okay.
Exactly.
There were a few shenanigans. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just asking questions. I don't know why that's illegal around here. Okay. But question number 1, she quotes the video of me doing my map, which means she may have gotten to watch all my answers.
She did not.
Which could have affected things. So she was aware of jokes in that bit.
I believe
I'm
that
just saying.
anyone who was labeling a map of the United States could only be injured watching your video of labeling the map of the United States.
Also, the ref, he was rooting for her, which he said in her video.
Yeah,
he said,
absolutely.
I need you to do well on this.
Absolutely.
Lots
Why
riding
Not
on this.
hiding that at all.
Yeah.
Why did Nick need her to do well in that?
His pride was on the line.
I believe that he thought that he would have to break up with her if she did worse.
That's what it was. That's nothing to do with me. It's
This
just,
was like,
I really care about you.
I will have to turn my life upside down. I'll have to find a new place to live.
Yeah. We
I
already
had-
have these dogs. Like,
I had
there's a lot going on.
I had a lot invested in that.
Because if I found out that my wife
get
was
a
done with
U-Haul.
the gym, I don't know what I would do. I don't know how I can continue.
Yeah.
There's just this cut of
yeah.
Jacob just crying in the
Yeah,
backyard.
like-
Just, hello, darkness. He's like twisting
Hello,
looking at
darkness,
his
my
wedding
old
ring,
friend.
just quietly.
I'm sorry, babe. I have to ask you to leave.
His wife's like, I still don't understand. What is this map thing about? I thought we were just having fun. Why are you crying?
No.
I don't know you anymore. 23 states this guy got. Go down to podtherapybaitshop.com where you can find the hand-drawn map, which Nick has meticulously put on merch. It's
Yeah.
glorious.
I would say it's probably better to go back if you want to go back and watch that.
It's fun.
Go back and find the Instagram video.
At PodTherapyGuys.
That's probably better than trying to listen to the Patreon feed.
Yeah.
Of it.
Oh,
You can
yeah,
listen to
no
the Patreon
worries.
feed of it, but there's video.
The video goes pretty far to help, but the Patreon was a lot of fun. So get your what'd you make? You made a blanket, a canvas.
No.
Two
A
different
rug.
rugs. Oh, it's
no,
a rug.
there's a rug. There's no blanket.
Oh, okay. It's a rug. It's a
There's
throw rug.
a canvas,
Oh, my God.
some wall art.
That's
And it
all
looks
it-
very classy.
It does look
It looks-
classy.
It looks like it could fit
Somebody
in
needs to put
someplace.
this in an art thing. I'm telling you. Make people guess what it is. Like some postmodern.
We have an area rug. We've got a mug with the picture, and then it says "God bless the United States?" Question mark? Question mark? Question mark?
There's
And
a
then-
couple of different T-shirts.
Couple T-shirts.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I
A
like the
latte
white
mug.
one. The latte mug is really cool because that one reminds me of my original map because it was drawn on white paper. But
Yeah.
I like it, man. It is a very faithful rendition. I cannot believe you hand traced every single. That must have been hard writing my
You
letters.
do you not know me?
It was that meticulous. Hey, speaking of which, I hope that you are going to up your game this year on your pumpkin carving because last year's it carving was legit. That was the year that I realized, oh shit, Nick's not messing around.
when Nick
he can
traced a
do
pumpkin.
things. Yeah, Nick
I
can.
did not
Nick can
trace
carve.
a pumpkin. God
It
damn
was good. It was. Did you make it with like a Dremel or something?
Yeah, I
like that?
did.
It was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
So
I spent some time on it.
I think that you owe the people another great pumpkin.
It probably won't happen, and
Okay.
the reason why it won't
Way
happen
to
is
bow
because the only reason it happened last year is because I seriously underestimated how much time it was.
But once you had
yeah.
started,
yeah,
the investment.
now
was
I
on.
now I know how much time it takes
so
to
it's
do
better
something
just
like
to
that.
not start it.
So yeah,
Why don't you just pick an easier
we'll
design,
see.
man?
no. Well, how do you go backwards?
Well, all right. So this is you're gonna do it for the people, man. You gotta do it for the people.
Yeah,
Oh,
Maybe
see, this is what we should
Start a
have bet.
side project.
This should have been the bet. If Jim lost, he had to do whatever, and if Nick lost, he had to carve a pumpkin.
Or
Oh, I
we should
should
have
do
a
it.
pumpkin carving contest, and we should both carve pumpkins, and Jacob gets to vote on the best one. But also, I'm allowed to
Seems
buy
a
my
little
pumpkin.
fourth gradish.
I'm allowed to buy mine. I think
I'm pretty
Oh,
sure,
yeah,
I'm
of
pretty sure
course.
Laura would win.
just like the Pod Therapy Soapbox Derby, or
Pinewood Derby.
Pinewood Derby. Yeah, I'm allowed to buy mine from NASA.
I'm fine if we want to do a soapbox derby. As long as Jim has to race in the street.
Yeah,
There's no way this goes
I'm
wrong.
right out here on Sunset,
Yeah,
going
yeah.
down that little hill.
It'll work. So check it out, patreon.com/therapy. Check out the pre-show, a lot of fun, and also hear about which college sports team has a logo that is identical to, who's that guy?
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay. Identical to Gordon Ramsay, and hear about art, and hear my hot take on Ted Lasso and the depiction of therapy in season 2. My opinion is not what you think it's going to be. Let's just say it there. It was the cause of much controversy. in the studio today.
Seemed pretty on brand.
Pretty. No matter
Yeah.
what I say, you guys just always disagree with me. Yeah, that sounds about right. So we got some really good letters today. Now that I actually have a script, thank you, Nick. And the first one is called Inconsistency in Mental Health Care. I, like a lot of people in my generation, change jobs quite often. With that change of jobs, my insurance changes as well. This makes it difficult to have consistency in a therapist.
That is tough.
That is tough. Generally, I'll have to find a new provider every 2 years. One of my past therapists, while not formally diagnosing me with PTSD, suggested that my childhood trauma might be consistent with CPTSD and would need more time together before they could say anything for sure. And then I changed jobs and had to find a new therapist. How do I manage my mental health and deal with issues that typically take a lifetime to work through when I have no consistency in mental health providers? I feel like I need to print out a new handout with my personal cliff notes before every new provider. Any advice you could give me would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, Mr. Name. That's a good name. I like Mr. Name. That's an interesting problem, which is a great point.
Is there a system or something in place when you're switching therapists? Because of a reason, like maybe you move or something like
Or
that.
insurance.
Yeah. Where you basically have like your folder
That happens all
that
the
you
time.
take and like, here's my folder from my old therapist, new
Yeah.
therapist.
Yeah. You can. So this happens all the time. All the time. And this is one of the arguments that, of the many indictments on the American healthcare system, this is one of them too.
I haven't heard any.
Nothing. Everybody's thrilled with it.
Seems
This
fine.
is one of them.
Yeah.
In other countries that have a universal system, you don't have to face a reality where you would involuntarily have to change a healthcare provider unless they were retiring or changing their location, right? But this happens in American healthcare all the time where you don't even have to have changed jobs. It's the company that Nick and I were working for back in the day. We changed insurances 3 times in like 18 months just because we kept finding cheaper policies.
Oh yeah.
So it just happens. You just roll out a new one. You don't like your policy. You pay less with the Aetna this year, so go with them. And then everybody has to switch all their providers because that's how insurance works. So this does happen. So to Jacob's question, yes, your therapist has a file on you, which has your intake. It has their assessments of you. It has a treatment plan, probably multiple treatment plans. Has all your notes. You can ask for that and ask to have it transferred to the other clinic. This rarely happens for a lot of reasons. One, as a therapist, now there's some nitty-gritty laws about this that I don't have the sharpest of research on it, but there's some nitty-grittiness to what things you can demand as a patient from the therapy file. There's some things that you can have access to. There's other things that the therapist can actually withhold because we don't know that that's helpful for you to have. And so there's some rules that allow us to withhold some of that. But if you're transferring to me, so I have this happen.
But it's just your opinion.
And I'm not
opinion of
sure
the
what the
therapist.
nitty-gritty rules
Okay.
are in this. But that's not the primary reason this doesn't
Great.
happen very often. There's 2. So, like, let's say you were my new guy, and you knock on the door, hey, Jim, I'm your new guy. I'm Jacob. I used to
Dr.
work
Jim.
with... It's Dr. Jim. Look at me. I'm the captain now. So, yeah, this will be great. We're off to a great start. Oh, God. Go patreon.com/therapy. You'll get what all these jokes are about.
I'd really like for a new patient to correct you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jim. Dr. Jim. What? No, just Jim. No, it's Dr. Jim.
No, Dr. Jim.
You need to understand that.
I prefer formality.
Yeah. Please call me Mr. Smith. Okay, have a seat. It's a chair. Okay. So let's imagine a scenario where that happens and you say, yeah, I used to work with this guy, Nick, over at Nick Mental Health, but then my insurance changed. I can't see him anymore. So I went ahead and told Nick that he should ship you my entire file. Do you want me to have him do that? My first answer immediately out of the gate, I would say, no, please don't do that. And he'd say, well, why? I want you to have all that. It's irrelevant. It's just irrelevant to your work. I don't need to know what another therapist... I would like to know basics, which you can tell me. What were you guys working on? Oh, we were working on anxiety stuff and PTSD stuff. I have some stuff from childhood that's pretty rough. Okay, I need to familiarize myself with that by talking to you. I need to hear you tell me. I need to understand where you're at presently. Seeing his notes from 9 months ago is not actually going to help me. Even if I download all that data in my brain like the Matrix, and I'm like, okay, I remember every single detail. First off, your therapist didn't write that down. Didn't write down every single detail. They're not a transcriptionist in a deposition. They're not writing down word for word what you say. They're going to write basic conclusions. Second, I'm not going to risk getting you wrong by seeing you through that other person's eyes. I don't know what they think they saw in you. I need to see that independently for myself.
So you want broad strokes.
Maybe.
And those broad strokes can be given to you by the patient.
Exactly. I want to know
But that's
what
the
were you
most
guys
you
doing?
want anyway.
That's the most I want because I don't trust the other therapist's judgment. And also, the guy they met originally is not the guy I'm talking to right now. The guy I'm talking to right now did 9 months of therapy. I am a different chapter in your work.
And tell me what broad strokes means.
What were you working on? What kinds of things did you show up for?
If
Why'd
there's
you go
a
to therapy in the
diagnosis,
first
you want the
place?
diagnosis?
If you know it.
Okay.
If I said, so I won't even ask the word diagnosis. I'll just say, what were you guys working on? From your perspective, because that's all that matters to me.
If the old doc calls you up
Mm-hmm.
and says, hey, I'm just calling to give you this patient's diagnosis.
I've had that happen. I don't call them back. I mean, sometimes they'll call me and they'll go,
That
hey,
just seems
I'm
rude.
Well, they'll say like, hey, I'm authorized
to me all the
to
time.
Just return a call, Jim.
Yeah. They'll say, hey, I'm authorized to talk to you. And I'll say, okay, if you're not working on the case anymore, I'm not going to call you and find something out. Unless it's like dire. If the person says, hey, there's a safety issue, give me a call. That's fine.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we're talking about that.
No, we're probably
But
not.
yes.
No, I don't want to know
I
the
get that.
details from the last therapist. I really don't. Because at the end of the day, I need to learn it all from you. You need to tell me. We have to bond.
Mm-hmm.
So we're, like it or not, we're going to grind out some time here in a getting to know you fashion. And it's going to be a normal getting to know you fashion. There's no way to speed it up. There's no way to hand me a dossier and say, anyway, I've highlighted all the key information. Please spend the next hour familiarizing yourself with that. And then I'll come tomorrow and we'll pretend like we're old friends. That's not how therapy works. Therapy is an organic, interactive process. It's going to have to look like an organic conversation. I can't just dossier a person and then be helpful to them. I need to see them in action and talk to them. So there's no shortcut in my opinion. What do you think, Nick?
I don't know. I mean, from my experience working with, drug and alcohol treatment, I like getting some of that information, only because I like to kind of cross-reference with what they're reporting now.
Okay.
Because sometimes there will be some information that's useful that they don't report that I would read in a past chart. Such as other substances that they've used or consequences behind some of those substances, minimization of anything that's been reported so far.
Yeah,
okay.
So there's reasons why I would want that. But I agree from the perspective that when I read any of that information, I don't want it to cloud my perspective of where the client is at currently and what they see as being their current issues.
Right.
So kind of along the same lines, asking them, well, what do you see as being the problem? What are the things that you have been working on? What's some progress that you have made thus far? That information, like you said, is far more valuable to me.
Right.
I would like to know that information, but I always have to be very disciplined with that information and realize that this is just information.
It's
it
past
could
tense.
it could be good information. It could be 100% realistic or based in reality, or it could be not.
It could be relevant and current, or maybe
right.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, or it
Outdated.
could be if I don't know who that clinician was, maybe they're not doing good work, and maybe
Right.
I don't know whether or not I can trust that information. So I don't put a whole lot of weight into it, but I like to know it.
The best information is what the patient self-discloses, which is why, and I disagree with the style. A lot of therapists have a very heavy intake packet. And so, it'll be 10 pages, 15 pages of information where they're asking you, have you had any traumatic experiences? Have you had any medical experience? Have you been hospitalized? All these other things. I don't like to do that. I like to interview for that. I want to talk to you and get those answers, but I want us to chat. I want us to start investing in the friendship, start investing in the connection. I still need to know that stuff, but I want to hear it from you. So some people will gather it from the patient in writing, so they may still want that information. But you would not want to inherit that information from somebody else.
Okay.
Because think about it. What if you revealed to your past therapist that you had a really traumatic experience? This writer says, I had PTSD. And I don't want to trigger warning here, but what if it was something scary? What if there was something really bad? And, you're just flipping through pages, and then you're like, oh, so this horrific thing happened when you were 12 years old? Yup. It's already a weird thing for me to bring it up because I haven't earned the right to talk to you about that yet. The last therapist did. The last therapist earned the right to hear your truth, and they recorded your truth. But that doesn't just transmit over to Jim, the next therapist. It's not a baton that they can hand off to me. I haven't earned the rapport.
Well,
I need to earn it to
what
be
about
useful.
in this particular situation? Because the writer is saying that they want their new provider to have that information.
Yeah.
You can give them a summary. I don't. So if the writer said, Jim, you're my pal. You happen to be a therapist. Tells me this letter and says, what do you think? Do you think I should tell the old guy to send it to the new guy? I'd say you can. And there are some therapists that will say, great, and they'll download it and put it into your master file for them now, and so that way there's a continuity of record. That's the only value that I would see to that.
Would it be appropriate to ask the outgoing therapist for basically a summary that you can give to a new therapist?
I'd be comfortable with that. Yeah, I could see myself if it was short.
Like a discharge summary.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Here's a page.
Yeah.
Yes, I will read that.
Here's a page typed.
Yes. Okay, so there are exceptions to the rule. Like whenever I have patients that come to me from inpatient, so they went to a hospital or they went to a rehab, and now they're coming to me and I'm an outpatient therapist, and they say, I have paperwork that I was given. Do you want it? Yes, I do. And I want it for a lot of data, right? I want to know what medicines you were on. I want to know what your treatment plan was. I want to know how successful. And I want to read the therapist's notes because therapists do write notes to the next therapist, which is a discharge summary. We're writing clinical code to the next person we're handing it off to tell them hey, here's what's up. Here's what they were successful with. Here's what they did well with. Here's what their challenges are. If they're going to take a next step, here's what I think it's going to have to do. If they have risks, here's what I think their risks are. So that is really useful, but that's like a paragraph. It's not a lot. It's a very short summary. It would not be like a point-by-point history of PTSD.
It's not a packet.
It's not a packet. And I've had patients do that. I've had them try to hand me a 50-page summary that they've had clinical psychologists write about them for whatever, and they've said if you've read that on page 34, you'd know this about me. And it's I'm not doing that. Well, what if I just pay you to read that? I'm not doing that. Let's talk.
The thing about Jim is he's not much of a reader.
I don't like all your fancy words with your scribbles and your
I'm not
letters.
able to do that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. That's not going to happen. I would like to talk to the person because I'm a therapist at you. I'm not a documentarian. I'm not a historian. I'm a therapist, and that requires us to have rapport.
So I'm kind of hearing you say a couple different things. Number one, that you wouldn't want the information, but number two, as it relates back to the writer, is that this isn't necessarily as big of a setback as maybe the writer thinks it might
I
be.
understand that is frustrating.
It's frustrating.
Especially when it's historical stuff.
But I wouldn't necessarily say that as from the patient's perspective, you're not starting over again at zero.
No.
Because you've already made progress with that therapist. So your starting point with the next therapist, theoretically, is a different starting point than
Higher
what it
than
was.
zero.
Yeah, than what it was with the last therapist.
Well, and I would say of all the things a person could be seeing a therapist ongoing for, PTSD and trauma work, having to switch therapists, has got to be the worst one.
Oh, yeah.
Of all the things I could pick that a person should not have if they're switching therapists, it would be trauma.
Yeah.
Because the work of doing trauma healing is a very intricate thing. It requires a very steady-handed trust. There has to be a very deep, the therapist has to be, first off, damn good. And has to have an incredible ability to remember things that you've said. Because the slightest slip could really cause real damage if you're doing trauma work. It's already a very delicate art. And then to have to just baton that shit to the next one, I can totally see where the therapist is like, hey, I'm doing some really, or the client is saying, I'm doing some really heavy work here. Is there a way you guys can transmit so I can cut some of the corners here? And I totally get where that comes from.
Yeah.
And I still probably wouldn't. If you came to me, if you were my new patient and you said, listen, man, I've done this 4 times. I'm finally sick and tired of using insurance. So now I'm seeing you. I'm out of network because I want continuity of care. Then I would say, great. Hopefully you don't have to switch anymore. I hope I can be helpful. I would start with a trauma timeline. And I'd say, let's make a master map of the things that have happened in your life. And then I do want to learn where you've done previous therapeutic growth on some of these things. And you can highlight those a different color. And then as we go through them, I want you to share with me, me and Rob, my last therapist, we went over this. And me and Sharon, my last therapist, Dr. Sharon, it's Dr. Are you good at your job?
You're good at your job.
I've got heavy things over here.
Twice as good. So yeah, so I think
Start with
that
a
would
knife.
help, because then it would map us out. You can speed me
Probably
up.
end with a knife too.
You can definitely
Fine.
speed it up, but I don't think you can just. You can transmit the notes. You can transmit the record. I wouldn't read it, and I've had people do that where they've said, "So Jim, did you get a chance to get that packet?" And I've said, "I've received your packet from the last group or the provider. I have it. It's in my database." They'll say, "Oh, great. Did you read it?" No, it's a 40-page report. I did not read a year and a half of notes on you. Oh, are you going to get a chance to do that? No. Oh, why not? I'm interested in who you are today, not who you were a year and a half ago. I hope to hell you're not the same person.
And I'm lazy.
And I'm extremely lazy.
And there's video games to play.
There's a lot of Rocket League to play. I cannot give up my Rocket League time.
My big concern is that somebody would get frustrated and decide to not do more therapy because of that.
Well, obviously, I'm not gonna say it in this like curt way that I'm saying it to you.
Of course.
guys. Like I'm going to explain to them, Jacob, tell me what is in this packet that you're really hoping I see. Well, I kind of want you to see it and then find out if you think anything. It's like, okay, so what are you really going for, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to sift through what is it you're looking for from me. Well, I don't know, man. I'm worried that maybe you'll see something in there. I want to see if you come to the same conclusion my last therapist did. Okay, great. Reading his exact thoughts, I guarantee I'll come to the same conclusion he did because he did the math. But if you really want a second opinion, let me get to know you. Let me draw my own conclusions about you.
I like the summary.
Yeah.
The
Clinical summary is really helpful.
Discharge. what'd you call
Discharge
it?
summary.
Discharge
Yeah.
summary. There you go.
Or a transition summary. That's fine. Yeah, and I would totally be okay with that. But in this case, not
seems like an
switching
appropriate thing
levels
to
of
ask for,
care.
too.
It is.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's a great answer to your question, Ryder. Like, you can ask for a clinical summary or a discharge summary from the last therapist to hand to the new one. It will give them something to stand on. I would argue it's not more than what they would already get from an intake session with you. But if there are any interesting notes that your last therapist would like to pass to the next person, that can be transmitted.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, that can guide some opening questions from your new therapist.
It's helpful. But it's a bummer, and that's the American healthcare system. So, Mr. Name, hang in there. But I'll tell you this, one thing I hear in this letter that I'm thrilled about, you're not giving up. You're not
that's
letting
great.
this damn system defeat you. You're picking up the next chapter. And one of the things we've said a million times, and this is something we've had to train our patients to do at rehabs too, because at rehabs, it's very common that you may not end with the same therapist you started with.
Right.
Like, we all are a team. There's directors that might serve you. There's peers that might serve you. There's technicians. There's nurses. There's doctors. A lot of people have pieces of the puzzle for you.
You transfer to different levels of care, you're probably going to have a different provider.
Usually that happens. And our patients at rehabs are usually really frustrated because they're like, oh, man, I really, wanted to stick with so-and-so. And we tell them, like, no, so-and-so works at the inpatient level. They were a part of your story for this time. Now it's time to transition. Well, I felt safe with them. I felt good with them. This next person I don't know very well. I know, but that's actually therapeutic. That's part of the process of your transformation, is getting more and more comfortable bringing these skills with you, right? So there's a lot of value even in transition. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, I think we need to make a quick point. Somebody on Twitter was defending our honor. There's a little bit of a Twitter fight where somebody tried to obelisk, like how I said that word? I'm saying it right now. Because you guys see, I've learned it. I can grow.
Good job.
Thanks. So somebody tried
no
to.
memory of him saying it another way.
It was Little Sally Scoop. Shout out to Little Sally Scoop. So Little Sally Scoop a while ago wrote into us with some late adoption questions. We gave some resources and answers, and Little Sally Scoop was very grateful and very supportive and really, just thankful. And she was so enthusiastic about that stuff that she went back to like late adoption Twitter and started hashtagging our stuff and sharing it with them and saying, hey, this is a show I like. I asked questions. It was really helpful. Great resources. So I guess late adoption Twitter took a dump on us, and they were upset.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so there was a lot of anger.
Shout out late adoption Twitter.
They were upset. And so there was a lot of people that are like,
What were
whoa,
they
these
upset
guys
about?
are... Well, I couldn't see the tweets. All I could see was Little Sally Scoop defending us because the other tweets were blocked because they're under the privacy veil where I'm not following that writer and they're not following me. So I'm not authorized to see their tweets, but I can see Little Sally.
Is it called late adoption?
No. That's just the category of stuff that she was arguing about. But yeah, Little Sally Scoop is defending us. Like, all these people are apparently taking dumps on us, and I can see her replies where she's like, hey, hold on, guys. Like, they meant well. I've been listening to the show for this long, so I kind of accept them and all their failures, but they're likable.
Wow.
Yeah, little Sally Scoop's like really trying to defend us. And she's like, listen, guys, they're not adoption experts. They're trying their best. But she said something like, I mean, for a couple of addictions experts, they did a pretty good job. And I was like, okay. That's fine. That's not a full characterization of who we are. But we talk about rehab all the time.
Yeah.
So I think we give off that impression.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I'd be surprised that someone would listen to this show and not like it.
Yeah, isn't it weird? It's just weird that anybody would be like, wow, those guys are dumb.
Doesn't track.
Doesn't track. So, yeah. For the background, since it's been a while, Nick is a substance abuse expert. I have worked with Nick in rehab, so I do substance abuse as well. And then I have a mental health background. So we have a very diverse palette on the show. Neither of us are adoption
I'm just a funny
experts.
guy.
And then Jacob is
I'm just a funny audio
a life
guy.
coach with a jingle, which honestly trumps it all. That's the ace of
Got a
diamonds.
jingle.
The jingle wins all. So, speaking of jingles, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to help your friend focus on mental health. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Don, Scott Jameson, Richard Macy, and Lord Colin Stewart.
Yeah.
If you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. This week's trivia theme in honor of our therapy producers. Here's the question. Which of the following slurs was not in a John Gruden email?
Oh, no!
I don't know why people don't like us. No, here's...
That was such a good setup.
This week's trivia theme is Hispanic Heritage Month.
Oh, okay.
Because this is
Redeem ourselves on this one. All right, yeah, let's go in this direction.
Here's
I think
the
this is
question.
better.
Hispanic Heritage Month starts on September 15th, in part because it coincides with the independence dates of these countries. Is it A, Costa Rica, El Salvador, and Guatemala? B, Honduras, Nicaragua, that's B. C, Mexico and Chile, or D, all of the above. If you'd like to join the therapy producers that make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy.
Mexico and Chile is C. B is the islands one.
Okay, so it's
Honduras and Nicaragua.
So it's basically
neither of them are islands.
Hispanic American Heritage Month because
September 15th.
It was chosen on September 15th, in part because it coincides with the independence dates of these countries.
And the first one was the islands one.
Oh, September 15th.
None of these are islands, Jim.
What was the first one?
I mean, if you zoom out enough, it's all islands.
Aren't they all islands?
That's true.
Isn't
Okay.
Earth an island in space?
Costa Rica, El Salvador.
Costa Rica's
and-
not an island?
No.
What was the second country?
El Salvador and Guatemala. That's A.
Man, I have no idea where these are. I really don't.
No shit.
Costa Rica's not an island?
No, you're thinking Puerto Rico.
Oh, I was thinking of Puerto Rico. You're right. I was thinking of Puerto Rico.
I ever tell you about? Okay, quick sidebar.
Yeah.
I've been to Costa Rica,
Okay.
so I went with my wife at the time, and then we went with her sister,
Uh-huh.
and I think we were like day 2 of being in Costa Rica, and my former sister-in-law did not like to go out, and she wasn't very adventurous. She would really just kind of stay at the apartment that we had. And so at one point, I think it was day 2, where she asked, she's like, how big is the island exactly? And then that's when I was like, oh, like we were kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
we weren't going to tell her
Yeah.
for a while, but then I was like, oh, she's like out on her own. Like if something
should help,
happens,
yeah.
we should let her know.
Let her know it's not an island.
that she's not in Puerto Rico. Like
Yeah.
in case she needs to go to the U.S.
Yeah.
consulate.
It's a fun
or something.
prank until somebody
Like,
gets
yeah,
lost.
like this.
Yeah. It's like looking for a hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's
Yeah,
not okay.
So Costa Rica and Puerto Rico are not the same.
Okay, so it's Costa Rica, El Salvador.
And Guatemala. A.
Okay.
B,
B is Honduras and Nicaragua. C is Mexico and Chile.
C. Correct.
Don't start with your Duolingo
And-
bullshit.
And D is all of the above.
I'm going D.
So basically, the question is, which of those has their Independence Day
September.
in the middle of
Coincides.
September?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only one of those that I know
God,
is
it
Mexico.
really can't be all the above, can it? That would be insane.
That would be a crazy coincidence.
It
I
probably
will
is.
guess Mexico
That probably makes
because
the
I
most
know that
sense.
Mexican independence is middle of September.
Okay.
I believe
Yeah.
the 16th.
There's no way it can be all of them. Can I change my answer?
Yes, you sure can.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Honduras one.
Good move. It is D, all of the above.
Fuck! They all have the same Independence Day?
September 15th was chosen because it's the anniversary of the independence of 5 Latin American countries.
Wow!
Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Also,
What?
Mexico's independence date is September 16th.
Hey!
And
Right
Chile's is September 18th.
Wow!
So there you go.
So they just all did this
All
at
in
the same
September.
time.
I'm
Yeah.
just glad that the one thing I said was
Wow.
right.
Yeah.
That is really interesting. Was it the same year?
I don't know.
Or is it all just,
No,
it's just September comes
well,
around and they're like, you know what?
time
F
to-
this.
Time to get out of this government.
What are you guys thinking? I'm thinking independence.
Ah.
You get like this every September, Alberto. No, I'm serious.
There's a little chill in the air.
This is it. Before it gets cold, let's kick these bastards out of here. Wow. Did they all become independent of Spain?
So I'm thinking, I really wasn't prepared for follow-ups.
Yeah,
so
come on.
I'm not gonna. I have a hypothesis, but I'm not gonna answer.
All right, that's probably the safe thing
Yeah.
to do. Yeah,
Yep.
it's definitely safer just
We're
to not say
we're
things.
3 years into this. I'm learning.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's a good target on that one. Next question: how to help my friend focus on their mental health? Hey guys, I wrote into your last Reddit AMA asking about my friend who had been through a mental health breakdown last summer. In short, he experienced a manic episode and blew up many areas of his life, culminating in a suicide attempt and a psychiatric stay at a hospital last summer. I wrote into the AMA asking how to encourage him to seek help. He experiences psychosomatic delusions, along with let's see if I can get this one. Anosognosia. Might have to Google that one.
Sneezing.
That's
pronounced
the
sneezing.
one. Okay. Anosognosia, and is convinced that there's something wrong with his body, not his mind. Your answer was very helpful. Now the situation is a little different, so I thought I'd ask for help again. My friend, let's call him Joe, ended up in the hospital again a few months ago. This time, thankfully, it wasn't because of a suicide attempt. He was convinced to stay on his own, and then some other things happened that I don't fully understand, and he was given a choice: stay compliant with his medication for 3 months, or be court-ordered to go back to the hospital. As a result, he remained compliant with taking his medication and has begun seeing mental health professionals. It's been so good to have my friend Joe back. He and I live in different states, but we're able to converse like friends over FaceTime and messaging instead of focusing on his delusions. He's even talked about trying to get a job soon, and while I'm anxious that could be too much for him, I'm encouraged that he wants to. During the height of his delusions, he would stay in bed for hours at a time, wanting to die. You provided some really great resources during the AMA, and I've shared them with his mom as well. She's kind of the person primarily in charge of taking care of him. Thank you sincerely for that. I'm a little unclear how to be his friend now. He doesn't like taking his medication, even though the results are obvious to those who love him. I want to encourage him to stay on that path, but I don't want to risk him claiming I'm trying to force him to take it, as has happened in the past. I've gotten so used to walking on eggshells around him now. I don't want to create artificial distance by not asking about his mental health, but I also don't want to ignore what is, let's be real, a major struggle for him still. I told him last winter, when he was fully unmedicated but somewhat stable, that I didn't want to make him do anything or guilt him into anything, but at the same time, I almost lost him and was really afraid of that. I see a therapist for my own mental health issues, but understandably, I think we focus on my own wellness during the sessions. So Joe only really comes up if he's had a major change in his situation. Do you guys have any advice for someone who wants to encourage somebody to take care of their mental health without triggering an outsized response from them? Thanks. Struggling in the second city, she and her pronouns.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you as always for the pronouns.
Yeah, always helps. Second city is
Chicago.
Chicago. That's what I was going to say. I knew it.
Of course. Of
That's
course.
why I
Why would
let in.
anybody question
Nobody's
whether or not
questioning
you?
me.
No one
I
said
know
that
all
you
of
didn't.
Yeah.
I'm very well. Listen, I'm terrible at states.
Chicago's in what
Cities,
state?
I will. That's Illinois. I will dunk on cities though. Bad at states. Actually, better than both of you,
You know-
thought at states.
You know cities are in states, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, I can't like point them out on a map.
Oh, okay.
No. But I can tell you
So
what state
so
they
you
belong
know they
to.
exist?
Yeah,
Or what?
but mostly
Okay.
because of sports.
Jim is
Okay.
aware of cities.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what
if
I
you're
got
like,
out of
oh,
that.
Houston, it's like that's Texas, but only because of sports. Like I can generally tell you where cities are because sports teams belong to them. So they have to be cities of a certain size, or else I can't do it. Anyway,
Fair enough.
so good question, and thank you, Second City, for writing in. I think this is a really good one. Glad that we were able to be helpful on that AMA. We answered, I think, I think our 2021 AMA. We answered, I think it was close to 500 something
That's what I was
questions.
thinking.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was up there. So forgive us if we don't remember this one, but glad that we didn't screw it up.
Yeah.
That it was useful enough that you could pass information on to your friend's mom.
Take that, late adult adoption people.
But this is an interesting question because I think it goes back to even what we were just talking about when we were talking about working in rehabs. It's very similar whenever you see somebody who's struggling, they're doing better because they're following a program.
Mm-hmm.
But then that program feels artificial to them. There's times when they're like, I don't like this. This is dumb. And if you're their family, you're like, oh, please keep doing this.
Yeah.
Please don't
Right.
stop. You're getting shaky. And like being able to put positive pressure on somebody to do what's working, stay healthy, taking those meds.
Especially when you can, as an outsider, you can see the results.
You can see it, which you absolutely can. You know, paranoid delusions, like, yeah, you'll catch those instantly. So this is a really good question about how to keep people in a program that's helping them.
One of the things that I've done in the past, I haven't had this exact experience, but I've worked with patients in drug and alcohol treatment programs that have co-occurring mental health disorders and have very fluctuating periods of mental health, where sometimes they're operating very well. They're taking their meds, they're coherent, they're logical, and then other times when they're the exact opposite of that.
Right.
What I have learned is to be able to identify those times when they're doing really well and take advantage of that.
Right.
And then I use that as an opportunity to have a discussion with them about when their mental health is not doing well.
Right.
And
Oh, interesting. So wait until they're doing well,
yeah.
and then talk about the bad times.
Yeah, and then what?
All right.
But the way that I would approach it is saying like, hey, you're doing really well. I notice all these things. That you seem to be, and talk about some of the great things that they're doing. And they're usually pretty open to that. And then they're usually also open to recognizing that there are times when they're not functioning as well.
Mm.
And then you can have that conversation with them, saying like, I want to be supportive of you, and I want to help you out as much as I can. Teach me, how can I do this?
Right.
Because it's a lot easier if they have a role to play in your assistance.
Yep.
So if you can ask them, when there's those times that you don't want to take your meds, I don't want to feel like I'm forcing you to take your meds, but now how valuable that is.
Yes.
But you also know that in that moment, you're not going to appreciate how valuable it is. Teach me how I can help you in that moment.
Right.
And I'll bet they'll have some good advice for you.
Yeah. No, I love that. So on a friend level, I guess it's going to be a little different than what we would do as a therapist. But that's exactly a great move. One of the things that I'll do in this kind of situation or in substance abuse too, I'll have them make a video postcard to their future selves. When they're feeling well, when they're doing great, and they're like, you know what, this has been a real difference maker for me. I'm feeling good, just got out of therapy, things are great. I'll say, okay, make a video postcard to your future self. You know that guy or that girl. You know what he or she is thinking. You know how they get when they feel like, screw this, the meds are dumb, I want my old life, or whatever it is. You know what they're thinking. So since you can anticipate that, and since right now you know differently, I want you to send a message to future you. Because you're the only one future you is going to believe. Not going to believe me. Not going to believe your friends, right? Only you could be trusted, especially with something like this with delusional paranoia. Only you could trust you, right? And you'll remember making that video. So this could be a really helpful artifact. And then they do it. They create a time capsule. They create a video for themselves, 5 minutes or whatever, where they just record it. They'll usually send it to me to hold for them if it's ever needed. And then they keep it on their phone or whatever. It's a really helpful way to come back. We call the exercise message in a bottle. But yeah, it's a really useful way to kind of bring them back because it's their own convictions, their own conclusions. and you're just supporting them by reminding them about it. Or maybe they've written them down. Maybe they've told the therapist that. I think that's what a therapist is sometimes. Like your scenario, you, the therapist, are the living embodiment of that video.
Yeah.
Because then when they're struggling later, you say, hey, Robert, remember when you were telling me these things?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that. Seemed like that was really, you were feeling really good back then. Yeah, I guess I was.
No, I think it's also important to point out that I think both of our examples, we're talking with folks that are reasonably functioning at a capacity in which these exercises would work.
Sure, yeah.
There are going to be examples, and I'm not sure if your friend is going to fall into this example, but examples where we're talking about serious delusion,
Right.
where showing them a videotape of themselves.
Depends on how severe.
Yeah, I mean, that could be something like,
Yeah.
you know,
it could
I
still
knew
come
you
off.
had mind controlled, abilities and stuff like that.
It
where
could
they're
always backfire.
completely out of it.
Well, if
and
they're
then-
already off the meds.
Yeah,
But
and-
that's why they're court ordered, is
Right.
because you've demonstrated it's that severe, and
Yeah.
like they would put you back in custody. So in this case, writer Joe. One thing I also want to note, I mean, you don't exactly tell us. You probably said it in the AMA, but again, we had a lot of questions, so we don't remember. But you don't say in here what the medicines are. It sounds like they're probably on like an antipsychotic. I mean, I'd probably guess it's something like olanzapine or something. Those are always tricky. Like they very much change the way the human is feeling about themselves. They'll describe their thoughts as being cloudy and difficult to concentrate. But you will notice these differences. They are more mellow. They're more put together. They are not coming up with these terrifying explanations of things, and they're more in the now. But there's a trade-off, and sometimes they really struggle with that trade-off because they miss feeling sharp, and they miss feeling like they're up to date, and their brain was moving quickly before, and now it feels slow and sluggish to them. And it takes a long time a lot of times before they even find a good medicine and get the right dosage. So it can be a really discouraging thing. But I think joining their team like you are, encouraging them, being a historian for them, telling them, Joe, it means so much to me to see you healthy. And whenever you weren't, that was hard to watch. I care about you. I want to see you continue to thrive. Giving them permission to complain and say things like, man, I hate these meds. Like, I hate what this does to me. I just want to be myself again. And just not feeling you have to swat that out of their hand. Like, just hearing them and saying, yeah, this has been a hard thing. And you know what? Somebody who has diabetes has to get used to taking the insulin. And that's a big part of their life. And they have to change over to start doing that. I know that's inconvenient. I know that's hard. But Joe, I'm so proud of you that you're still doing it. I know it's not easy. But it means so much to everybody who loves you. And we see it. We see what you're doing, Joe. We're proud of you. And then coming back to reminding them, like Nick said, don't forget why you're doing this, though. Come back to the basics.
I'm also glad to hear that you are in therapy yourself, because
Yes.
the role that you are taking on right now is not easy. And I hope you realize that and your expectations are set appropriately. You're
Yeah.
not going to be batting 1,000.
No.
It's a difficult job, and there's going to be a lot of times where you try something and it's not going to work, and it's not your fault.
No.
It's a hard situation to be in.
And the greatest teacher, Second City, is pain. Pain is our greatest teacher. We had a guest. I have no idea what number episode it was, but it was a member of Nick's hockey team. And he shared his story of living with schizophrenia and delusional paranoia, going to the hospital, getting on medicines. And that was not a linear thing. That was not a straight line. Where it was like, well, one and done, everything got better. Like, no, there were several episodes in that story of like, yeah, I thought I was okay again, and then this happened. And so, like, sometimes humans have to fall off that horse several times, and then they can start to realize, I've already tried it my way. I've tried it my way 2-3 times now. It doesn't work. I have to trust this process. I have to trust my helpers.
Yep.
So that may happen, Second City, but you have to give people the dignity of choice and
That
the
was
freedom to
episode
fail.
79. Pod
Damn.
Therapy episode 79.
Yeah, look,
Guy's on it. Guy just knows. It's weird how he knows that from the top of his head.
Yeah.
But then he
Yeah.
claims that he never listens to the show. You know?
seems a little suspicious.
It
I
does seem a little
memorized them as we
suspicious.
record them.
Oh, well, that's why you don't have to
Yeah.
go back. Yeah, that's audiographic memory, I think.
Doesn't explain the pod therapy tattoo.
Or
But-
the Jim's Batmom shirt that he's wearing. It's a lot of support. One of those is true. I'll let you guess which one.
Let the listener decide.
We don't like to reveal it all. Go to patreon.com/therapy. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're discussing jealousy. Woo. You're
The song,
listening
not
to
the-
Pod
not the
Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Dawn, Scott Jameson, Richard Macy, and Lord Colin Stewart. If you'd like to
Stewart.
sponsor a show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. This week's trivia theme, continuing, is Hispanic Heritage Month. Question number 2. The year 2000 marked the first time Hispanic surnames made the list of the top 15 most common surnames in that year's census.
Oh.
Do you know which one was the most common?
I got mine. Or are you giving us multiple choice?
I
or you just
am,
want us to
but do
throw
you
it out
want
there?
to take
Throw
a
it out,
stab
Joe.
at it?
Gonzalez.
Okay, I will listen to the choices.
All
Oh,
right.
come on. Damn it.
A. Rodriguez.
Oh, shit.
B. Martinez.
Be there, Gonzalez.
C. Hernandez.
Be there, Gonzalez.
D. Garcia.
All the above.
If you'd like to join the therapy producers and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up.
Well, I'd like the second try, please.
Oh, okay. All right.
Uh,
Worked well for you last time. Go ahead.
Well, actually, I went first last time, so I'll let.
I'll
take-
go D. Garcia.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the right one. That was the one I was going to pick. Was Rodriguez on the list?
Yes, Rodriguez was A.
I'll take Rodriguez.
Okay. Jacob wins.
Yeah!
Damn it! But let the record show I also thought that was right.
The
After
record
the
will
other one that
therefore
I got
show.
wrong.
Right,
After
right.
Gonzalez, which was my first.
I'll have the stenographer.
I can't
put that
believe
in the show
Gonzalez
notes.
didn't even end up on there, man. Jeez.
Yeah. No.
Felt right.
Nope. Garcia. Garcia is the most common surname in the 2000 census, with 858,289 reported.
Wow.
Where was Smith on that one?
Yo.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, Smith had to be a finalist.
Yeah.
It's got to be pretty high
Smith
up
is
there.
always up there.
Gosh, that's almost 1 million people with that
Yep.
one last name. Very interesting. How many of them could possibly be Jerry?
Jacob, can you turn the laughter up in my monitor? I can't hear.
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Thank you.
studio audience is a little weak in the back. It's because
Yeah.
those mics have been out. Question about jealousy. Hello, Pod Therapy. This is Zach. I have a question about humans in general. Would you say jealousy is a normal thing? Is jealousy healthy for us? Is there such a thing as unhealthy amounts of jealousy? Let's just take as an example that you're in a relationship and you go out hanging out with friends, and maybe your significant other is talking to somebody of the opposite sex and they are strictly friends, and you begin to feel jealous. Is that normal for all people to experience that? Is it ever excessive to the point where maybe you need therapy? Thanks, Zach.
Okay.
Garcia, according to this Google thing from 2019, the 6th most common last name in the country.
So does that mean
Oh.
it dropped or went up?
No, the list that I gave was the first time a Hispanic surname
That it
made the
broke-
top 15.
Top
Yeah.
15.
Yes, but now it's the top
6.
6.
Let's see.
Ooh,
Rodriguez, number 9.
wow.
Martinez, number 10. Hernandez, 11. Lopez, 12.
Wow.
Gonzalez, 13.
Gonzalez ends up in there.
Yeah,
Recently.
it's moved on up.
Yeah.
Smith, by the way, number 1.
Oh, is it really?
Beats
Oh, yeah.
Anderson?
Wow. Henderson's more
Anderson-
West Coast.
Anderson is 15th.
Anderson?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Or Henderson?
Anderson.
Anderson is
Oh.
15th. Johnson is number 2.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
Johnson
yeah,
is
yeah.
number
Smith,
2.
Johnson, and Williams are your top 3.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. That would be
Yeah.
a great name for a law firm.
Yeah.
Smith Johnson.
Wouldn't it?
That's got to be made up.
Smith, Johnson, and Williams, attorneys at law.
I'm just scrolling down the list to find Tangeman here.
you
There
keep-
it is at 23.
Keep going.
Oh,
Yeah.
nope, that's Thompson.
Yeah.
You're going to be scrolling for a long
looking.
time. Hope you got a good battery on
Jobin doesn't end up in there either, though it is popular in Canada, I'm told.
Huh.
You're not
Canadians.
popular anywhere.
So what do you think, Nick? Jealousy, is it something that is just an innate human trait that is like everybody is jealous? Or is it something that, hey, when this shows up, something's wrong with you, you should not feel jealous?
Well, obviously it's something that is innate.
Okay.
I mean, just from
Are
a,
you saying innate or innate?
Innate?
it's both.
Yeah.
It's just something that Nate has to deal with?
Nate's a jealous guy.
Nates are jealous.
If you've met Nate,
Yeah.
he's jealous. Close your eyes right now. If you met a Nate, imagine
Yes.
Nate. What do you remember him doing?
No.
Freaking out? Yeah, that was Nate. Jealous. Very jealous.
But yeah, I mean, I think just from a biological evolutionary perspective, it makes sense why we would have jealousy and jealous tendencies.
It can serve a benefit. I mean, it can help you better your life.
Yes. Yeah. I was
I mean,
actually
you see somebody else that has a something nicer than you, better than you, what have you. You might work harder to achieve that.
I
Yeah,
believe that
which
is
I
envious.
think- which I think actually
I believe envious is what you just described.
Just being jealous of people who
Right.
get to stab Jim in the neck.
Saying, I'm pretty confident if you Google the two, envious is what you just
I
described.
think, the next point that I was going to make is that, the question asking, well, is this a good thing or bad thing? I think it depends on how you handle it. I mean, because you can handle it in healthy ways, as Jacob gave the example. You can be in a situation where you are jealous and then that motivates you, or envious, and that motivates you to do something, to change something, to take action in some sense. But you can also take action in very unhealthy ways. And I think that's, we're talking about when do you decide that you need to seek therapy. I think that's probably an indicator right there. I mean, are the actions you're taking worse than, making the situation worse? Is that worse than what actually...
Right. That's worse than
is-
what you thought was
yeah,
happening.
right.
Like, yeah. I see jealousy at the way the writer describes it, Zach describes it. I see that as a form of anxiety. Like whenever you're fearful that, you're at a party, as the example that Zach draws, and your significant other is talking to somebody that they could be attracted to. It's a person of the opposite sex, and they're straight, and so you're like, oh man, what does that mean? What is the thing about this? That's your anxiety acting up right there. I think that's an anxiousness because that is a fear of catastrophizing and mind reading, right? So like you're perceiving wrongly that your partner is interested in this other person, you're reading body languages, and you're believing that they're going to leave you. And that in my opinion is a form of anxiety that I deal with a lot, especially couples anxieties. I think that's a thing.
You wouldn't even have to be interpreting it wrongly. You could
Right.
be interpreting it correctly.
Right, but your reaction is way too big, right? Your wrong-sized reaction to the reality implies that you can control this, or that you should interfere with this, or that you should interrupt this. Which, if you go back into the archives of the show, we've said it's been a while since we brought this old zinger up, but we don't necessarily believe in a relationship defense. We don't think that you can like run around to the other 8 billion humans on this rock and guard your mate from being interested in any of them. They are interested in some of them. That's healthy. They could be compatible with some of those people. That's fine. The best thing you can do to keep a mate is to be good at the relationship, to be trying, to be intentional about it. And if you're strategic and intentional in your relationship, most of the time your mate won't necessarily be looking for things elsewhere. Though you don't have personal control over that.
Right.
If it's something they're going to do, sadly, you don't have control over it. So jealousy does not serve you.
According to Merriam-Webster, jealousy is inherently negative.
Okay.
Oh.
But what is envious, Jacob? I know you looked it up. I know.
I haven't yet. I was
Wow.
trying
What
to find
is
this.
what does it say that makes
is
it
that?
Feeling or showing an unhappy or angry desire to have what someone else has.
Damn it, I thought that was envy. Then what's envy?
I don't know. I'll get to it in a second.
All right.
I'm addressing the question that actually came in.
It is negative. I do
Feeling
think
or
it's
showing unhappiness or anger because you think that someone you love, such as your husband or wife, likes or is liked by someone else.
Yeah.
That would be a jealous husband or a jealous spouse.
So it seems like the term itself implies that. So
According to the dictionary, the term implies a negative connotation.
I do think it's universal. I think it's rare and exceptional when you meet somebody that is not jealous, especially like the writers specifically characterizing this as partner jealousy, right? And romantic jealousy. It is rare that you find a situation where the person honestly does not feel it. They may not express it, and they may be quite good at hiding it, and they may have an abundance of self-confidence, but like it's rare, I think, to find that they didn't even have that thought ever. They don't relate to it. They don't get that idea.
So how do you deal with this? Hypothetically, let's
when I
say-
feel jealous,
no, yeah, let's say
like whenever
let's
you're
say-
talking to somebody
let's
else.
say you're at a party and your wife happens to be talking to somebody who can identify all 50 states.
Oh, yeah.
Or even just
What are they,
or
a
even just more than half.
cartographer? 8th grade geography
Even just
teacher?
say let's say 58% of states.
Right.
Yeah, 58%. What did I get? What is it?
You had 23.
It was like
And
46%.
So
though.
when you're filled with jealousy, how do you deal with that?
Let's go up to 49%.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you are filled with jealousy, if you're out there and you hear this question, you think, you know what? I do struggle with that. I do get really wound up. I get scared. Whenever my partner's phone chirps and they get a text, I think, oh no, are they talking to somebody that, maybe they like more than me? When they tell me stories about their job and their coworkers, I think, oh no, I've heard that person's name several times in their stories. I wonder if that's like, are they close? What's going on? Are they getting lunch? That kind of thing. Imagine that you're that person and your mind runs away with you and you find yourself really disquieted and really anxious. What I would want you to do is very similar to how we're going to treat use CBT to treat anxiety. I want you to use self-talk to right-size the fear that you're having, asking yourself, so like, what is the worst thing that could happen? Okay, your spouse leaves you, your significant other doesn't want to be with you and they leave you for somebody else. Would you technically survive that? Well, yeah. Yes, you could. You would survive that. Would it matter in 6 days? Yes. Would it matter in 6 weeks? Yeah, you'd still be pretty devastated. Would it matter in 6 months? Yeah, but you'd probably be getting better. Would it matter in 6 years? Well, yeah, I guess somewhat, but you'd probably be moved on. Okay, that's a useful question to frame of reference that. What's the best case scenario? Oh, that's just somebody that's a friend. They don't even care about them. They don't even like them at all. They're obsessed with me. They'll never find anybody else attractive. They'll never, ever be interested in anybody else ever again.
Oh, I don't think that is the worst case scenario.
That's the best case.
Okay. I think... Okay, excuse me. I don't think that is the best case scenario. Yes. I think the best case scenario is still negative.
Okay.
I think the best case scenario is I'm just being a jerk.
Yeah, okay. That it's definitely a possibility that this is that's the third question, really. So the first question we ask is, what's the worst case scenario? This person doesn't love you, they leave you, and you have to right size how long that would impact you. The best case scenario, your mate never would ever find anybody else attractive, charming, or likable at all. You're the only one for them. And then there's a middle road, which is pretty equidistant from both of those harsh realities, right? Those very extreme realities. There's a middle ground that says they probably still choose you. They've picked you out of all the people. They find other people likable.
Other people are interesting and charming.
You're overreacting. That is the most realistic thing that's probably happening. So we ask that series of questions as part of CBT to like right size it. Another question that comes from that format is asking, where's the evidence, right? And you say, oh, there is some evidence. They have a coworker. They seem to get along with that person. Okay, that's fine. But like, have they initiated breaking up with you? Like, have they let you know, I don't have feelings for you anymore, but
in this case, in your example there, would evidence, if I said, oh, there is evidence, they have lunch together daily.
You have evidence that they're friends.
Right.
Yeah. And you might have reasonable suspicion, right? Like, that's fine. But I would say take the thought to court, right? Is suspicion enough to convict? No.
This is where it might also be useful to have another person to kind of bounce some of these off of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you're in this situation, you're
seeing everything.
You're not giving
skewed.
a fair
right
perception of all of this.
Right.
Because like the second question, like where you said, okay, the first one was, what was the first?
Worst and best?
Worst and best.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then the second one was, will it matter in 6 days, 6 months?
When you do
blah,
worst,
blah, blah,
you
blah,
ask,
blah, blah, blah.
the timelines, yeah.
I mean, in those situations, I've been in those situations, and I would answer, hell yeah.
This
is going to be devastating for the rest of my life.
Right.
Right? Which obviously...
That's where you need somebody else going like, yeah, but what?
No, but what? Yeah, you need somebody who's going to ground you back into like...
Because your imagination will say, no, this would be the end of my world.
Right.
And another person saying...
You said that about that girl in 8th grade.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Do you remember when you said this about Becky, like in 9th grade?
Right.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. You remember you were devastated? Yeah, okay. You were listening to AFI, in your closet for like a week and a half? Yeah, I do. Okay, we're fine. Yeah, you made that. So, yeah, we call that suggesting. And in CBT, that's really helpful, too. How would you talk to a friend if they were in the same situation? But the last thing that I'll add on this, because I do think that this is another relevant point, jealousy and this issue of anxiety that I think goes along with it, it's important. We need to discuss that. We need to talk about relationship anxiety. We need to talk about how people get help for anxiety and fix this. But another thing that is an interesting little caveat. In this kind of situation, it is healthy for a couple to have established guidance, rules, boundaries. That's not unfair. All human agreements or contracts have a boundary, which is a set of understandings about how things are going to function and what they're both comfortable with.
It's just a soft swing.
Yeah, that's everybody's got the rules. Is what we're trying to say. Everybody's got the rules. No kissing on the lips.
The key doesn't go in the bucket.
That's
Yeah, don't put your key in the fishbowl.
where I'm going with this. I just zoomed in on 5 people in the audience. They were like, everybody else is like, what is he talking about?
Oh, there are some people in our audience that found that really funny.
Yeah. There's some people that are like, this just happened. This is my favorite episode. So I do believe in the idea of boundaries, but jealousy boundaries can get really weird really fast, where that anxiety drives us to have very distorted perceptions of what is right and wrong in relationships, and we become very dominant of our partner. We're like, you're not allowed to talk to other people. I need to see your phone all the time. GPS is on. You need to FaceTime me whenever you're at lunch. I need to see who you're having lunch with. Well, why? Because that's a boundary. Because I need to be reassured, because if you're not guilty, then why don't you it's like, okay, those anxious boundaries can be really distorted and really unhealthy.
And that's not a boundary. That's a rule.
You're creating some really imposing kind of situations.
Boundary would be, you don't go on dates with other people.
Right.
A rule is you're going to prove to me that you're not going on dates with other people.
It definitely can get excessive. And I don't like any kind of agreements being negotiated with anxiety in the driver's seat. I just don't. But a lot of times in relationships, they do.
What you're talking about with anxiety, to me, sounds like insecurity.
Well, yeah, because I think those things are joined at the hip. But like you do see this. Relationship anxiety drives a lot of very weird rules in relationships where it's like, you're not allowed to talk to people. Oh, so you said that there's a new girl that works at your job. Yeah, there is. Well, you're not allowed to talk to her. Well, I need to. She works in accounting and I have to go to her to get my paycheck. Okay, only emails. Okay, you really shouldn't be telling me who I'm allowed to talk to at work, right? Well, I feel unsafe and it's your job to make me feel safe. That's where I would say you need to go talk to the therapist about that, because I think that you have anxiety about this. It's manifesting as jealousy, and this is wrong sizing the way that we need to be able to interact. We need to be able to fluidly interact with humans.
I don't know how you can have this conversation without talking about trust.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But the problem is that the anxious person, in their pursuit of trust, they will say it's your job to help me have trust. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they'll say, because you broke my trust back in 1992 or whatever it is, and they'll say, you broke my trust once, so you have the burden of proof. You have to make me feel safe. And a therapist is going to look at that and say, to some extent, sometimes that is true. And we do need to help our partner feel trusting, especially if there's been a break in the trust. And you also are going to have to right-size your anxiousness.
Well, yeah, and it's one thing for one person to be able to demonstrate trustworthy behaviors, right, but then the other person then has to be able to accept those trustworthy behaviors.
And they need to decrease.
Right.
Yeah. And if your anxiety is not decreasing despite acts of good faith and demonstration, that is deeper than merely just saying it's situational anxiety. I don't think it is.
Well, you can't prove a negative.
Right.
I can't prove to you that I'm not having sex with person X.
Right.
I can't do that.
Right.
I can help you. I can try to establish trust with you. I can try and do all of these things. But at the end of the day, if you want me to prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am not having sex with this person, I can't do that.
How do you?
And so if you're asking your partner for that proof,
right,
you're asking something that cannot be achieved.
But it is a very intimate thing, and that's where Nick's point earlier about is jealousy universal. I do think that to some extent,
to a degree, yes,
pretty much is, and I think it's hardwired as an evolutionary imperative that says you need your partner. Your partner validates your existence. It validates progeny and all these other things. It's your survival mate, and yeah, you become really protective of them, and it's a very existential feeling. I can't think of another thing that jealousy even looks like in the human spectrum of emotions. It is very peculiar to have that kind of terror and anxious fear that your partner is with somebody else or doesn't love you anymore. It's a particular kind of scary. And so it definitely, I think, rings like anxiety, and I think sometimes needs to be treated like that. A lot of times, actually. Good question. I like this one. Good one, Zach. Well done. Zach's got a few more in the hopper. Zach usually kicks us a few a month that we put in the Zach pile. We love your questions, buddy. Keep them coming in. All right, so let's see here. We've got some new Patreons. we want to thank our newbies who have joined us. By the way, we're recording this on October 11th. So if you've joined the show since October 11th at patreon.com/therapy.
Looking at you, Coach Gruden.
That's right. Yeah. Come on down, buddy. It's time.
Oh, sorry.
Come on down.
Former Coach Gruden.
Former Coach Gruden. Come on down here, Chucky. It's time for us to talk. We got some new TheraPals. Don't forget, go to Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and we always announce you the day of you subscribing, or at least the next day, and that's patreon.com/therapy. Welcome to new TheraPal, Kim Trossman.
Hey.
Hey.
And we got some new TheraPods. We got Sam Buck.
Yeah.
We got John Hanfelder.
Yeah.
And we got Polygon.
Polygon.
But I think I put Polygon on the wrong one.
No. Polygon stepped it up a notch. Polygon
Yeah.
Used to be a TheraPal, and Polygon jumped up to Therapod.
Okay. All right.
Welcome
I
to
couldn't
the
remember if I put that
Theraparty.
right.
And, of course, we want to thank our bosses, the Saccharin 16, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie, Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, King of Student Loan Debt, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Banana Scoop, Mason Miller, Scott Jameson, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Kevin Chamberlain, Malaya, Richard Macy, Cindy Ash, Newstick, and first of name, breather of fire, dumb of ass, Lord Colin Stewart.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
Then you need more help than we can give.
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy, and thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening the episode's description in your podcast app, copying and pasting that link we provided in your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, on Instagram at PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Dr. Sharon Murmur.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next
I
week.
forgot her last name, but it was very similar to Murmur.
Oh, okay.
That was the right one.
All right.
Watch the rest of the show. It's a very
Great
good show.
episode, guys.
It's a really good show.
It is a really good show.
It's better than our show.